Hello. Looking to get an expert knowledge of Romeo and Juliet but haven't got hours and hours to spend doing it? Well, look no further. In this series of videos, we're aiming to give you all the information you need from plot to context to theme and character analysis. So let's not waste any time and immediately begin to explore the plot. Without an understanding of this, you have nothing to ground your analysis in. So, in Act 1, Samson and Gregory, servants to the Capulets, and Abraham and Balthazar, servants to the Montague family, start a street fight, which is joined by Benvolio, Montague, and Tybalt, Capulet. Aeschylus, the Prince of Verona, who angrily learns of this fight, declares a death penalty for further feuding between the two families. Romeo, we learn, is lovesick. Rosaline, the object of his affections, will not requite or return his love. His friend Benvolio tells Romeo to look at other girls. Meanwhile, Capulet is keen for Paris to marry his daughter Juliet and plans a party to be held later that night. Romeo and friends decide to turn up uninvited, Romeo hoping to see Rosaline, whom he still pines for. Lady Capulet discusses the idea of marriage to Paris with Juliet. Juliet keeps her options open. The nurse wishes Juliet every possible happiness. Meanwhile, Mercutio attempts to cheer a lovesick Romeo up, tell him to be rough with love if need be. At the Capulet party, Romeo, who is disguised by a mask, falls in love with Juliet on sight. Capulet stops Tybalt from attacking Romeo at his party, telling him there'll be other opportunities. Both Romeo and Juliet learn that they are each other's enemies of the other family. A prologue sung by a choir dramatises the conflict both Romeo and Juliet feel between their love for one another and their loyalty to their respective families. Act 2. Ignoring the danger, Romeo scales the Capulet's wall to be near Juliet, the woman he cannot forget. Unnoticed in Juliet's orchard, Romeo learns of Juliet's love for him. After declaring their feelings for each other, the two decide to marry. Juliet will send Romeo a messenger in the morning to make plans for their wedding. The very next day, we meet Romeo's friend, Friar Lawrence. He wonders how Romeo can forget Rosaline so quickly, but agrees to marry the two, since he hopes his marriage will end the long-running Montague-Capulet feud. Romeo catches up with his friends Mercutio and Benvolio. Juliet's messenger, the nurse, arrives, and the wedding is set for later that day. The nurse brings Romeo cords or ropes, which will allow Romeo to climb into Juliet's bedchamber as her husband later that night. Act 2 ends with Romeo and Juliet's marriage. In Act 3, Benvolio and Mercutio, both Montagues, meet Tybalt the Capulet. Tybalt attempts to provoke Romeo into fighting. Mercutio fights Tybalt and is killed. Romeo then kills Tybalt. Aeschylus, the Prince of Verona, banishes Romeo from Verona, threatening death should he ever return. Juliet learns of Romeo killing Tybalt, and despite being torn between her loyalty for her family and Romeo, mourns her husband Romeo's banishment. Romeo learns of the banishment order, realizes he will not be able to see Juliet again. Friar Lawrence suggests Romeo go to Juliet's bedchamber to comfort his wife. Capulet, who does not know of Romeo and Juliet's marriage, decides that the marriage of Juliet to Paris must now proceed. Bidding his wife to make Juliet aware of Paris's love for her, the date of the marriage has been decided. It will be Thursday. We learn that Romeo has spent the night with his Juliet. Juliet, who is now already secretly married to Romeo, learns that she is to marry Paris. She tries to fight her father's wishes, failing to dissuade him, so Juliet decides to commit suicide if all else fails. In Act 4, Paris reveals that the wedding will occur on Thursday. Juliet is cold to Paris. Friar Lawrence tells Juliet to take a potion simulating death, allowing Romeo to take her away unopposed to Mantua, since everyone will think she is dead at the Capulet's ancient vault or burial ground. Capulet makes plans for Juliet's wedding. Juliet, who has decided to drink Friar Lawrence's potion, no longer opposes the wedding, and that delights the Capulet. Hearing this good news, Capulet, who is keen to have Juliet marry Paris, decides to move the wedding forward. It will now be on Wednesday morning, not Thursday as previously planned. Juliet succeeds in sleeping alone, which allows her to take the potion in privacy. Juliet worries about the friar's intentions before the potions take an effect, and she falls asleep. Lady Capulet and the nurse are busy making preparations for the wedding. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and now Capulet, hearing music announcing Paris' arrival, tells the nurse to wake Juliet. The Capulets learn that their daughter Juliet is dead. The wedding preparations are changed to those of a funeral. In Act 5, in Mantua, Romeo learns of Juliet's supposed death. deciding to risk his own life by returning to Verona at once to see Juliet one last time. Romeo also buys some poison from a local apothecary. Friar John explains to Friar Lawrence that his letter informing Romeo that Juliet is not dead did not reach Romeo. Friar Lawrence tries again to inform Romeo of his plan and heads off to the Capulet burial chamber where Juliet will soon awaken. Paris mourns his bride that never was. Romeo arrives, opening Juliet's coffin to look at his love one last time. Paris fights Romeo, whom he believes is disgracing Juliet's grave. Paris dies, Romeo placing himself beside Juliet. Romeo takes his potion, kisses Juliet, and dies. Friar Lawrence arrives too late. Juliet now awakens, asking for Romeo. Friar Lawrence leaves, leaving Juliet alone. Juliet kisses Romeo and stabs herself, dying. The prince, Capulets, and Montagues arrive, Balthazar and Friar Lawrence explaining all. Escalus scolds the two families, who finally end their feud. The play ends with the prince summarising this tragic love story. So there we are. Thank you. Now we know the plot. Let's begin to focus on context and the analysis of each character and theme. Good luck and well done.